Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. My name is Leon Jones, and I got another news story that takes place in Butler, Ohio. An African American woman was, you have to check the video out for yourself. Was she abused forcefully by the police? In other words, did the police use excessive force on this young lady? Now, I'm just going to tell you this. It was not the same as the Tyre Nichols case. Not at all. Now, what I did catch in this video was a young lady who was resisting arrest. Also, the police officers were Caucasian. Now, there are going to be a different set of circumstances with this content regarding police officers than in the Tyre Nichols case, because she says that she's not going to lie down like George Floyd did. Now, before I get into the video, let me share the article with you. Now, what has happened is, again, the officer hit woman in a McDonald's dispute, and he was placed on leave. Now, there were two officers on the case. Now, takes place, correction, I said Butler, Ohio. Well, Butler, Ohio, Butler County, Ohio. It's in the Dayton area. I know exactly where it is. So, let me get on with the article. From the AP News, Dayton, Ohio, this officer has been put on administrative leave after video showed him punching a black woman several times as she was taken into custody following a dispute at McDonald's over extra cheese on a Big Mac. First of all, she was hit 3 times, not several times. You have to watch the wording of the media, because the media also has an agenda. They're going to make this white police officer look like he's racial. But you're going to see in the video once I finish with the article. Let me continue with the article first. Now, the incident was captured on video by a bystander, and that occurred shortly after 4 p.m. Monday at a restaurant in Butler County, Ohio. It began after Laticka Hancock, 31, of Dayton, ordered a Big Mac and returned to the restaurant a short time later because it did not have the extra cheese that she paid for. Now, Hancock said a restaurant worker asked another employee to remake her burger, but that person later asked Hancock to pay more for the extra cheese. Now, according to Hancock, she said she had already paid for it and asked for a refund, which she says she eventually received. Now, of course, this dispute was over a refund. She had received her refund. Now, Hancock said she then told police that had been called. Apparently, McDonald's had called the police on Hancock, and Hancock was asked to leave the restaurant. Now, according to everything that I've read, she had already received her refund. But then she was asked to leave. She didn't want to leave. So McDonald's called the police. Now, of course, when you're asked to leave somebody else's property and you don't, you are currently trespassing. Now, the 2 Butler officers, Sergeant Todd Stanley and Tim Zellers, responded there around 4:20 p.m. and approached Hancock, who spoke with them about what had occurred. Now, when the police officers asked for her license, authorities say Hancock told him that she didn't have one and refused to provide her identification. The exchange soon became heated, and one of the officers decided to place Hancock under arrest. The officers said Hancock resisted arrest, and Stanley eventually hit Hancock on the right side of her face with an open palm strike. Hancock was then placed in handcuffs, put into a police cruiser, and charged with resisting arrest and 3 other minor counts. Now, I don't even know what the 3 other minor accounts were. Now, in the video, see for yourself, was the officer justified? Did Laticka Hancock resist arrest? Now, authorities said Hancock was bleeding from her mouth and was treated by an EMT who determined the wound was superficial. Now, what do we mean by superficial? Could have been fake, but it looked like she did have a wound, but you'll see in a video. Now, Stanley has served on the Butler force for more than 22 years, while Zellers has served for about 2.5 years. Butler Police Chief John Porter said Stanley had no former reprimands in his personal file and was placed on leave as a result of a repeated correspondence from concerned residents, including a lot of hate emails and phone calls. Now, Zellers has not been placed on leave, Porter said. Now, of course, this young black lady got some attorneys. Now, Hancock and her attorney, Michael Wright, held a news conference Wednesday to discuss the incident. Hancock said that she felt like she could have lost her life over a sandwich and felt lucky that she was able to now tell her side of the story. I don't want people to feel like I'm complaining for a piece of cheese, she said. Now, again, the tears did look fake. The lawyers did look like they are coaching her. I'll play the video and show it to you. You tell me what you believe. Let me continue. Wright said the responding officers were looking for a fight rather than to de-escalate the issue or the problem. Now, he called for Stanley to be fired and charged with assault. He also criticized the restaurant for calling police over the dispute. Now, again, she already had a refund. They told her, and this is what I'm going, and I hate to assume, she was told to leave. She didn't want to leave, so the police were called. When somebody tells you to leave their property, 2 things are going to happen. You're going to get the police called, or you're going to forcibly remove that person yourself. McDonald's called the police. Now, I don't have McDonald's side. That's the problem. I only have one side. So I'm going to say this. When it comes to McDonald's, we need your side of the story. Now, going back to the lawyer, said if they can't manage basic customer service, opting to potentially put a person's life in jeopardy over a mishandled Big Mac, it doesn't seem safe for Black people to go and eat at McDonald's anymore, Wright said. Now, Wright is, of course, making this issue a racial issue. Now, let's back up for a moment. How many times have you seen Black women go through the drive-through when they were actually getting service and they didn't like the service from their point of view? Some of them got free food and still wanted to fight. This incident was no different. Now, were the police a little abusive with their force? You be the judge. Now, of course, Wright said no decision has been made yet whether lawsuit will be filed, noting that his firm was waiting for additional videos inside McDonald's and, of course, more information from the police. Now, the police did not immediately respond to an email request for comment Thursday evening. Now, fair use. is going to contain some graphic images. Here is the video.
The woman in this disturbing video, Laticka Hancock, emotional as she relives Monday's encounter with Butler Township Police.
Why I said, I'm going to be quiet now. I'm going to stand up. I'm not going to be George Floyd. They're not going to get me on the ground.
Police body cam video is showing us what led up to the moment a Butler Township police officer punched Hancock 3 times in a McDonald's parking lot.
She refused to take my dollar to give me 30 cents after I paid it for extra cheese. So then she got an attitude because I asked her for a refund and called the police because she didn't want to give me back my money.
Officers Todd Stanley and Tim Zeller listened to her side of the story, then asked her for her first and last name to issue a trespass notice.
If you don't stop, you're going to end up going to jail. Stop.
Hancock, Hancock, write it down.
Calm down.
I'm not giving you nothing. I already said it.
Okay. You're under arrest.
No, I'm not.
Put your hands behind your back.
No, I'm not.
You are under arrest for failure to identify.
It quickly escalated. Officers grab her, and Zeller pulls out his taser. Hancock tries to reason, but it's too late. Officer Stanley strikes her 3 times in the face and head.
You punched me on your own will.
No, it says you're
I didn't punch you.
Beat up.
I didn't resist. No, I didn't. I'm a female.
Stop.
Look at my mouth.
Stop.
Do you think your officers used excessive force here?
I'm not going to comment on that until the entire investigation is complete.
Tuesday, the police department launched an investigation into the conduct of both officers, but only Officer Stanley is on paid administrative leave. Hancock and her legal team say it's not enough.
And we're asking him to be terminated and to be convicted and to be charged. Yes, both officers, and to be charged. That's what we're asking. And we want an independent investigator. This must stop. These officers and their brutality and their, condescending approach.
Attorney Michael Wright says officers injured his client due to the use of force, and he says Butler Township and McDonald's played a role in what happened to her. Ms. Hancock, what does justice look like for you?
They taught us all through growing up.
We want to hold these officers accountable.
Be accountable. Every action has a consequence.
So I'm going to say this. Hold these officers accountable. Now, these old bootlicking lawyers, and I don't like a lot of these lawyers out here, particularly the black ones, because let me tell you something. They're going to make this issue a racial issue. Now, I read the article myself. She was refunded her money. Now, if you saw the video, and I know a number of you did, this woman refused arrest. The police officer told her to calm down. Now, don't get me wrong. Did the police officer have to strike this young woman 3 times? No. However, she said she didn't want to be like George Floyd. She wanted to be another hero. See, let me tell you something. To all you brothers and sisters out there, and I say this all the time, when a police officer gives you a command, follow that command. Because this black lady was resisting arrest. She was going to be charged with trespassing. Now, let me tell you something about a trespassing charge. That would have been thrown out. That would have been a misdemeanor. But who really egged it on? Now, she's making out like a victim here, but she already received a refund, regardless of how much a refund was. Again, I don't have the side of McDonald's. Now, something else that should be answered. What was the officer doing with the taser? Why didn't he strike her with the taser? And what I'm looking at when it comes to police brutality here, anytime you touch somebody who's out of line, they're going to scream police brutality. So what are police officers supposed to do? They're supposed to allow an individual to resist arrest. Now, of course, with this incident, it's not a Tyree Nichols where that was real abuse, where they actually yanked Tyree Nichols out of the car. But this woman, and this is what I said, a lot of these women, here's the problem with them. They don't really fear any men because men aren't allowed to whoop that ass. Now, if men were allowed to whoop that ass one time, they would straighten up. Now, I'm not saying hit a woman, but do some of them need somebody to go upside their head? Yes, they do, because they think they can run around and talk shit to any man out there, whether they don't like authority, particularly a number of African-American women. Now, this is not about African-American women, but there are a number of cases where there are African-American women who are defying the police officers, and then when they get knocked upside the head, you got people like Ben Crump and all these other black bootlegging lawyers trying to make it into something racial. Now, I will ask this. Where the feminists on this issue? Where's Black Lives Matter on this issue? Now, since these were white officers, I'm going to tell you right now, this is going to become a racial issue. But if you look at what was going on in a video, this black lady, 31-year-old, Laticka Hancock, was resisting arrest. Now, should the officer have punched her? No. The purpose of what should have happened, and this is my opinion, she could have been detained and let go. But she said she wasn't going to give any more information. Then you have all these lawyers talking about police should be accountable. What about your client? Your client received her refund. And I read the article. But she refused to leave the property. So what was McDonald supposed to do? Because I've seen it. She could have gone in that McDonald's and harassed the employees. And more issues would have come out. More drama would have come out. But nobody's really looking at that. So the questions lie like this. Why didn't that black woman break out her ID? Did she have ID? She told the officer to write her name down. The officer did tell her to cool down. She didn't want to cool down. Because a lot of these sisters out here don't want to deal with any type of authority. And they don't. And it's going to still become, it's still a problem out here. And more of them are going to get knocked upside the head. Now, should that have happened? No. Now, I'm going to cut right down on the middle, and I'm going to say both sides were wrong. Now, you have this bootlicking lawyer, Michael Wright, who said fire both of the police officers. Well, Mr. Wright, what would you have done if you were a police officer and somebody was resisting arrest? I don't care if they were a woman. I don't care if they were black. What would you have done? See, a number of you so-called civil rights lawyers, you're in your feelings. Now, I'm not for anybody abusing anybody, whether it's police officers, whether it's gym teachers, but we have a problem in this culture where some people think they can defy authority and then make it a racial issue if it doesn't go their way, or make it a gender issue if it doesn't go their way. Now, you have to check out the video for yourself, because in the end, what's going to happen is there's going to eventually be something synonymous with racism here, because these two lawyers, they're going to make it a racial issue eventually, especially when this video is seen by more than just me. But in the end, I'm going to say this. This was not the same as the Tyree Nichols video. It was not. I mean, Tyree Nichols, they beat dog shit out of him. We saw that. I'm not saying that the police officer was justified in popping upside the head 3 times. No. However, she felt that she didn't have to give any information out. That's a problem. Now, you have some rogue police officers? Absolutely. Do some of these police officers abuse their power? Yeah, that's the government. 3 individuals who wanted to defund the police, yeah, you can defund the police and you're going to get rogue officers out there after you defund the police. Because you're going to have police from the Scorpion unit and these other crazy units. They're going to handle alleged suspects just like they handled Tyree Nichols and this young lady. Now, again, there are questions that have to be asked, and I'm going to review them again. Why did Tanika, why didn't she just give out the ID? Why didn't she just leave the property? This didn't have to escalate this far. What went on in that McDonald's? Because I don't have McDonald's side. Then these lawyers, okay, we need a video for McDonald's. Because again, I'm not making this a black woman's issue, but there are a number of them I've seen at drive-thrus. I've even seen it myself in person. When they don't get their food, they want to jump over the counter and start fighting. And again, you sisters, more of this is going to happen because people are getting tired of your attitude, whether it's police, whether it's black men. I'm not saying hit a woman, but some of you do need an ass whooping. Now, I'm not saying it's justified. And excuse me for sounding harsh on this video. You talk about accountability? You boot-licking lawyer, Michael Wright? You talk about accountability? Your client wasn't accountable for her behavior. Now, I'm not saying what she did was justified, and I'm not saying what the police did was justified. They were both wrong. However, the police officer was trying to detain her. He told her to cool down. She didn't want to cool down because she knew that there were going to be a lot of people, if something had happened, be on her side. And believe it, there's going to be a lawsuit. And you have to watch it. Some of these individuals are looking for some quick money, so this could be some extortion. Because her family and her, they're going to sue the police department. You may end up having bootlickers like Ben Crump come down there to Ohio. This is probably going to be something if it doesn't get to other YouTubers tonight. I'm the first one that has done it so far. So anybody that's seen this video, they're probably going to put their spin on it as well. I'm just going by what I've seen from the video and the article. Again, the bottom line is, when you are dealing with the police and you're resisting arrest, things are going to get out of hand. They got out of hand. And unfortunately, both of these police officers may be fired because of the court of opinion. And see, the police chief, he didn't have any answers. So, in summary, I don't have McDonald's information. Now, I believe McDonald's, all the police on this lady, on Hancock, because she wouldn't leave the property. And technically, that's trespassing. It's a misdemeanor. You don't go to jail for that. You may go downtown for a few hours until somebody comes to pick you up. But you're not going to have a criminal record. She was giving her money back. Said in the article, from the AP article. But again, she wasn't satisfied. But now we're right back to square one. All on a police officer's fault. But some of you are going to regret not wanting police officers in your neighborhood. Because if I'm a police officer today, I'm saying let it burn. Let the motherfucker burn. That's what I'm going to say. Let it burn. Excuse my French on this one. This is going to be politicized just like George Floyd, just like these other knuckleheads that had records and thought they could defy the police. Now, there are some rogue police out there. Don't get me wrong. I don't like rogue police. I'm not going to say I'm not a fan of the cops. I'm not a fan of bad cops. But this incident should never happen. And right now, I see both sides were wrong. So in the end, tell me what you think. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. And if you are looking for some STEM content, check out my second channel, QCIS channel. On that channel, I'll give you a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. Now, if you cannot find the 411 Talk Zone radio show channel or the QCIS channel on YouTube, you can check both of those channels out on Twitter. Now, because the QCIS channel is a professional and educational channel, I'll take it one step further. You can also find that channel on LinkedIn. I'm just going to say this. In the end, be blessed for what you have. Don't worry about what you don't have. Always know that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. And if it doesn't apply, let it fly. But if the shoe fits, wear it. If you don't like the shoe, change it. And once again, thank you for listening to this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. You all have a wonderful, gracious evening. God bless you. I'm out.